One of the most common problems that people have is not knowing what to do, it's doing what they know. Because procrastination is the anticipation of an undesirable result. Procrastination is literally when you are paralyzed by an action because you can clearly see it not working more than you can see it working for you. And really, it's not your fault because the education system has programmed you and I to seek validation over growth. So a lot of times we won't take action until we know for certain that somebody's on the other side, they're going to validate us. So in essence, a lot of times we're trying to get an A on a report card that no longer exists. And even though we know exactly what to do to get the A, we're just not sure that the validation on the other side is going to come with the action. Because if we're honest, most of us, including you and I, we know exactly the things to do to move our lives forward that's really going to make the biggest impact. And yours might be different from mine, but whatever your thing is, whenever you think about that specific thing that will help you to truly move your life forward and allow you to have the most impact, when you think about it, immediately you start to feel and experience resistance. And just like most people, you go into what I call creative avoidance, where you commit to doing all of the other activities that's really not going to move you forward, but at least it makes you feel good temporarily because it distracted you from the thing that you actually resist. Wouldn't life be so much easier if you just enjoyed doing the hard thing that's actually going to move your life forward? Or at least if you just did it on autopilot, whether you liked it or not, life would be so much easier if you did it that way. There is one strategy that works every single time. And anytime it's something that I don't want to do, when I use this strategy, it works on me every single time. It's not sexy, and most of us really don't want to believe that it's actually the answer. Currently, there is a lot of confusion in the marketplace because there are so many self-help gurus that unfortunately they ignore a fundamental fact. This particular strategy that I'm going to share with you is like a principle because it works for everyone regardless of who you are, and it doesn't matter where you're from or what your previous experience is, because when you think about principles, they're universal for everybody who actually uses them, and this is no different. The one thing that I can tell you is that if you start doing this, you will stop procrastinating unconsciously. So what's the answer, you might be asking yourself? The answer is boredom. Boredom is both the problem and the solution. So the very thing that is the problem is actually the solution itself. Whatever the thing is that you keep resisting, you don't do it because your brain associates with being bored, and it doesn't want to be bored. And when your brain associates this activity with being boring, all of the other distractions around you sounds and appears to be so much more entertaining because guess what? Your mind at some point in time has associated with boring with some kind of pain. And it's like your unconscious mind would do everything that it can to keep you out of pain. So when it associates something as being boring or associate you with being bored, it's going to do everything that it can to associate something else and get you to do something else, like creative avoidance. It's like, why on earth would you read a book that can improve and enhance every area and aspect of your life when you could just mindly watch your favorite show and not even think at all? A good analogy of how this works is when you wake up in the morning after you've been asleep for more than 6 hours and you want to go to the bathroom and you cut on the light. You blink your eyes rapidly because at that point in time, your eyes, it's almost like they hurt to a certain extent, but it's like your eyes blink rapidly because the light appears to be so bright and your eyes continue to blink until they actually adjust to the light. Now, even though in the morning when you first wake up, that light seems really bright, here's the reality. The light is not any more bright than it was the night before when you went to the bathroom, before you went to bed. The light was the exact same. It's just that your brain uses things to contrast, to compare things, and that's actually what's taking place when the light, is bright one moment, but it's not as bright the next. It's like your brain is just making certain associations because it uses something that's called contrast. And because your brain interprets things using contrast, the absolute best thing that you can do is to eliminate all other distractions that's keeping you from doing the very thing that's really going to move you forward. Strip away every other option. Sit in a blank room with nothing in it if you have to. Eliminate your ability to do anything other than the thing that you keep, resisting. And when you eliminate everything else, you would do that thing that you keep resisting. And you might be thinking, it's not that simple. I can just sit and do nothing. And the reality is you actually can't. You can't just sit and do nothing. Because in contrast, doing the thing that you actually resist is way better than actually doing nothing whatsoever. For most people, Isolation and boredom is one of the highest degrees of punishment that somebody could experience. When you think about when somebody does something really, really bad, one step short of taking their life is solitary confinement, where they're just bored, they have nothing to do, and they're isolated, and they would much rather be doing anything that they were resisting on the other side prior to them having that experience. Because again, when they're bored and their mind has nothing whatsoever to do, they would do anything that they previously resisted, because what they previously resisted is a lot more entertaining than solitary confinement during that time. If you're put in an empty room with only one thing to do, if that one thing is not something like gouging your eyes out, more than likely you're going to do whatever that one thing is, because over time, boredom is going to cause you to find that one thing that you keep resisting a lot more entertaining than its alternative. And because of how the brain uses contrast, doing that one thing is going to feel like it's so much more entertaining than doing nothing at all. So you must ask yourself, what are you structuring your life around? Are the things that you're supposed to be doing entertaining in comparison to the things that you actually use as distractions? Because the larger the disparity, the more agonizing that thing that you keep resisting will be. So in essence, it's like you have to figure out some kind of way to make the thing that you keep resisting more entertaining than the thing that you're actually using as distractions. And you'll find very quickly that if you delete distractions as an option, it will actually work right away. This isn't like some kind of dopamine detox that you have to do over like some months or even some years. Although that will help you get used to finding the entertainment value in doing difficult things. This is something that works immediately because your brain actually needs it to in order to survive. Your brain hates feeling bored, so it will make whatever your only option is as entertaining as it needs to be. I even have personal evidence to prove this. So one of the most effective writing times that I ever experienced in my life was when I wrote my first book. So from my writing experience, what I would do is I would go to a nearby park and I would drive there. I would not take my credit cards, I wouldn't take money, I wouldn't even take my cell phone, and I wouldn't have any distractions in the car whatsoever, because I didn't want to get bored and drive somewhere to go get food or call somebody or do something else on my phone. So I eliminated all of those distractions that I knew before even going into the situation that would tempt me to use them. I also had an agreement with myself that I had to stay there for at least 2 hours. And over time, I started to get so bored that I started to get really creative in writing, because just sitting there bored, it caused me to find writing a lot more entertaining. And so even though I told myself that I had to stay there for a minimum of 2 hours, there were times where a mandatory 2 hours turned into 5 hours that flew by because I eliminated all of the distractions, and what I was resisting became a lot more entertaining than just doing nothing whatsoever. So the very thing that I just described, it worked on me from the writing process, and I wrote my book like faster in probably like 2 months than I have probably in the previous 2 years just from implementing this step. So this is an example of my environmental conditioning helping to facilitate a mindset of creativity as well as productivity. So in essence, if you have something right now that's in your best interest to do, one of the most productive things that you could do is to eliminate all other distractions and just have that one thing like I did with writing, and create it as such where you're like in this room all by yourself with nothing else there except that one thing that you keep resisting. And maybe it's not in a empty room, but make it so that it's to that same degree so all other options are actually obsolete and eliminated and there's no other temptation. This might actually taking you doing something that's really extreme for you. It might cause you to cut off your cell phone or remove your computer out of your room or unplug the TV and put it deep in a closet that's hard for you to get to. Because if this is what it takes for you to get the thing that you keep resisting done, then it's worth it for your life long term. And I can tell you, in living this way and treating productivity this way, it's not like you're going to live a less entertaining life. In fact, you might find it more entertaining and more fulfilling and more empowering than you even thought was even possible. I would ask you to not treat this advice as just something that's just throwaway. I really encourage you to implement it because it's a reason why you're resisting. And it's like when you overcome that resistance, there is so much freedom, fulfillment, and abundance on the other side, not just for you, but also for the people that you love and for the people that you can actually serve at the highest level. And I'm a firm believer that when it comes to freedom, finances, and fulfillment, that is the ultimate lifestyle that we're all designed to live. And I can promise you that there's some level of that waiting for you on the other side of the very thing that you're resisting. So here's the thing, if you've gotten any value out of this video at all, I want you to comment below and tell me what is the number one thing that you're gonna take away from this video and that you're going to do immediately. And I also wanna ask you to subscribe. And if you feel like there's somebody else who can benefit from this as well, I ask you to share this with at least 3 friends so that they can actually get the same value from this video that you've got out of it. Thank you again for watching. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.